Larry Pratt is the executive director of the group called Gun Owners of America. It is one of the most vocal defenders of the right to bear arms in the U.S., the Second Amendment. And Larry Pratt has been active in this effort for some 40 years. Larry Pratt joins me from Springfield, Virginia. Welcome to you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate being with you.
Let me ask you what you think, how you felt watching the president, tears in his eyes today, announcing these measures, making a plea for gun control in the United States.
Well, the president is simply misinformed on some pretty important matters. To say that something like this doesn't happen in other countries, has he not been told what happened in France and the horrible death toll that occurred there when the Muslim attackers killed some 130 people? And that's not including the Charlie Hebdo massacre. As a matter of fact, the United States, as much of a problem as we have with massacres, we have less of a body count per capita than they do in, say, France.
Really? Well,
yeah,
let me just say, in terms of the body count, in the last 365 days of 2015, there were 373 mass shootings in the United States. From
but those
2009
didn't those were not fatalities. You're counting shootings where somebody may not have even been hit. Many were woundings. I'm talking about shootings where there were fatalities. And the government's own definition of a massacre is 4 or more deaths. Now, that's where the president just simply went off the rails. And the biggest thing that is troubling the United States is our gun-free zones. This is where our massacres occur.
Okay, I just want to deal with the numbers, because I have some numbers from Pew Research, from the Washington Post, other organizations. 2009 to 2014, the number of gun homicides, and that's not including suicides, hovered around 11,000 and 12,000. 11,000, 12,000 people murdered by guns in your country, far and away more than most other developed countries.
Except when you pause to think what happened in Europe with their gun control in the last century, when after confiscation of guns, the Nazis and the Soviets murdered millions. And we have guns in our country precisely to avoid that kind of horrible development.
Do you think your own government is going to turn guns on the people?
It has been done. It was done in Athens, Tennessee in 1947. It was done in Bunkerville, Nevada in 2014. It has happened even in the United States, where we put our pants on one leg at a time, the way the rest of the world does. And the reason we have had so few of those episodes, and why we have not had Nazis come to power and exterminate millions of people, is because we can shoot them here.
85% of Americans support expanded background checks. What's wrong with an expanded background check?
I don't know where you get that number, because some 51% now oppose any further restrictions on guns.
This is from Pew Research. Pew Research, the Pew Research Center.
And a lot, as you've already indicated, depends on how a question is asked. But the problem is the background check is not a crime-fighting tool. It has resulted in the last year of record in the prosecution of 14 people. All of the background checks that were done, and there were several million, and that's, like, I think maybe 11 million, 14 prosecutions. No, our problem is we have gun-free zones. That's where our slaughters occur. That's what we have to get rid of in America. Then we're going to have one of the lowest murder rates in the world, because outside of jurisdictions where they have these gun-free zones, America is an extremely peaceful, orderly place. Gun Owners of America is in Fairfax County, Virginia, which is very urban, well over 1 million people, right outside the nation's capital. We have very easy gun laws. People can carry concealed firearms, carry them openly, carry them in most places.
Hmm.
And on any given year, our murder rate is the same or less than that of Great Britain.
Okay, well, we're going to have to double check that in the control room. But let me ask you this. I mean, Great Britain, yes, it doesn't, there's a ban on guns there, but at the same time, they also have a knife problem. Let me ask you what you see as
Sure.
the answer to the issue of people dying, thousands of people dying with guns every day. Are you saying to me that as I'm trying to wrap my head around this, do you believe that if you arm every single person in your nation, that the episodes of gun violence will go down?
Well, from what we have seen in the data we have, you don't even have to arm every single person, not even close. But look at the difference between, say, Chicago, where they have the most draconian gun control laws. Until court orders recently, it was virtually impossible to have a gun, forget a concealed carry permit. And yet they look at 500 homicides, give or take, a year. Go back to my Fairfax County, Virginia, where the population is smaller, but on a per capita basis, we have nothing of the problem compared to Chicago with all its gun control.
Mr.
Go
Pratt,
fix.
I understand what you're saying. Let me ask you this question then. Let's say if somebody has a mental health issue, let's say psychosis, bipolar, what have you, should they have a gun?
If they've been adjudicated in a court of law and the court of law has found them to be dangerous to others or to themselves, by all means. And hopefully the court might even decide to incarcerate them, because to leave them out when they're considered too dangerous to have a gun is really saying, well, we're not going to sanction you having a gun, but we know the way you criminal types are, you're likely to get one anyway. And that's what they might well do. So I think once we stop foisting upon the public the mentally ill, which was a decision made in our country several decades ago, once we leave them in an institutional environment until we're pretty sure they're safe for themselves and others, then we're not going to have the problem that we do now with people who are mentally ill. But we have refused to use our due process system and our court system to really deal with this problem.
Okay. Let me just run this by you again. As I mentioned to you, the 85% of Americans supporting expanded background checks. 79%, according to the same survey, support laws to prevent people with mental illnesses from purchasing guns. 70% support the creation of a federal database to track on all gun sales. What is essentially wrong with that?
Well, when you track a gun sale, it means you're keeping a record of that gun sale. It means you have a national registry. Now, I realize Canada and other countries have dealt with that. I don't think it was all that satisfactory an experience, because Canada did away with its long gun registry after kind of a brief flirtation.
That was a controversial decision on both counts, to get it and to get rid of it.
And I celebrate that. One down, one to go. The fact of the matter is, governments cannot be trusted with information, of a lot of sorts of information, most particularly our financial information. Look what happened with our IRS scandal, and with the ownership of firearms, which is, after all, something that tyrants always go after before they really put the hammer down. That was the experience in Nazi Germany under Hitler. It was the experience in Soviet Russia under Lenin. So we're trying to learn from history, and we're not about ready to repeat those kinds of mistakes. For no law enforcement benefit, we should let the government have a registry? No, we don't think so.
All right, well, we have to leave it there for time. Larry Pratt, the executive director of the group Gun Owners of America. Larry Pratt joined me from Springfield, Virginia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being with you.